Infinite Fusion. I can't get enough of this game, so today we'll be jumping back in. And what's the only thing better than Pikachu fusions? That's right, Charizard. Before getting started, let me know in the comments what you think the coolest Charizard fusion would be. Also, only 5% of you guys are subscribed to the channel, so if you've been enjoying the content lately, I'd really appreciate you joining up. Even if you think you're subscribed, you might not be. Let's try to hit 6,000 likes for everyone's favorite fiery lizard. Alright, that's enough plugging. Let's get into it. I name myself after one of the best Gen 9 Pokemon and go to Oak's lab to grab my starter. You can tell by our options that something's off. I randomized the game to keep things fresh during the playthrough. But how will I get Charizards? Don't worry, I've got that covered. By catching 6 Charmander in my old file and starting a new game plus, they're now level 5 waiting in my box. This will also be a hardcore Nuzlocke, but when a fusion faints, I'll still use the Charmander to create a new fusion while boxing the other Pokemon. Anyway, our starter options end up being Teddiursa, Sandile, and Piplup, so of course I go with the actual starter. This means our rival Squirt is going to have a Sanursa, which Piplup takes care of with some pounds. Now we create our first fusion and head out to get some encounters. In the Viridian Mart, the gift Pyukumuku has been randomized into a Quagsire, and on Route 1 we catch Trapinch. After creating Charsire, we also pick up a Sandshrew on Route 22, giving us Charshrew and Charinch. Then we make quick work of Squirt's Cotton Chum and Sanursa, and I catch a Marill and Sentret to round out the team, which really isn't looking too great. At least they're cute. One thing I really like about Infinite Fusion's randomizer is you can still set gyms to be type specific, just random types, so now Brock is a fighting type leader. He starts with Slowrogue, who takes over half its health from Charinch's Bulldoze and Yawns. In order to avoid sleep, I bring Charlup into a tackle and finish the baby off with 2 pounds. Now it's time for the Ace Manmelian. I go back to our Trapinch fusion, who's hit by a crit Karate Chop doing just over 50%. I need to risk a crit here, and after surviving with 3 HP, our little Fire Ant one-shots its relative with Bulldoze, earning us badge number 1. Sadly, as I continued on to Route 3, a Vibragma hit Charsire with an unexpected Bulldoze, resulting in our first death. I did manage to catch a Diglett on this route who took Quagsire's place on the team though. Easy come, easy go, as some sand attacks cause us to miss enough moves for this Diglett with Arena Trap to take our newest fusion down. At least I catch an Aron in Mount Moon to fill out the team of 6. Now we get a few evolutions in Charinch, Amelian, and Charplup, but a Geomoth causes problems with Poison Powder and Rollout, killing Charil. With the loss of their friend, our team now grows stronger as we have 2 more evolutions, Charit and Charshrew. With that, we finally make it to Giovanni, whose triple fusion machine fails. Once Team Rocket takes off, we're free to move to Cerulean, where Squirt is waiting for battle number 2. He leads a Matang Dino fusion against Amelian, who mud slaps before swapping it to Charinch. We take pretty big damage from Headbutt on the switch, but dodge next turn and fire back with a Bulldoze to knock the Steel Dragon out. Next, our rival sends out his starter, whose Teddiursa half evolved into Ursaring. Charplup takes Feint Attack on the switch and is able to drop the Bear Croc with Bubble Beam on the following turn. Venilwick also drops the Bubble Beam, and his last Pokemon Munchpinny is taken down with a 5-spot Fury Swipes from Charit. Time to take on Misty, who was randomized into Dragon types, so this might be a little scary. Her lead Axon does close to half our health with Dual Chops and just happens to have a Shuka Berry to survive Charinch's Bulldoze. At least the speed drop lets us move first next turn to get the KO, but now we're faced with her Ace, Ew. The Eevee Axew fusion rips into us with a slash for the first kill that really hurts. I would have loved to have a Flygon Charizard fusion on the team. Charplup comes in and Metal Claws, but it only does about the same damage as the Dragon's Bite. I decide to test the resisted Bubble Beam, which I think does less as we're hit with Swift. A Super Potion means this fight is really going to come down to the wire, but one of our Metal Claws ends up giving an attack boost. After a crit slash, our starter survives Bite on 3 HP and is just able to eke out the win with his Steel Claws in order to keep the run alive. I think we got super lucky the leader didn't use Dragon Rage. One of her trainers did though, and my heart almost stopped. Anyway, we make it to Bill's house but are faced with this abomination. See ya, loser. With some more encounters unlocked, we round out the team with Swimelian and Charreep, who evolves into Charfy on the SSN, along with Charshrew, so now we have Charslash. And speaking of the SSN, you again? Nothing on Squirt's team is all that impressive, so after grabbing Cut, we can enter the Vermilion Gym, which uses Ice types. Look at this dude with a double Delibird fusion. I also really like how randomized mode will change the gym leader's text to match their type. Like here where Surge says his ice types froze his enemies into paralysis. He starts off big with a Swilax, but Emelian double resists Ice Shard and a super effective Fire Fang does good damage. He decides to swap his lead into Q-Nub, who never gets the chance to attack as we overwhelm the Orphan with our flames. Now we can take out the big boy and are left staring down the ace Dubro. I Rock Slide, which looks like a 4-hit KO, but this thing only headbutts us for minimal damage. After a Rock Slide flinch, our third comes up just shy of the knockout, but we're only forced to eat one more headbutt before we finally end things against the army vet. In Rock Tunnel, things were going great until we ran into a trainer with a Golbafet. Swimelian can't do much damage to the water psychic type, and sadly a trapping ability takes another of our teammates from us. Also a really scary moment here as another trainer sends out a Krabby Kyogre fusion, almost killing Charit, but our starter is able to take the abomination down without any casualties. As we make it to Lavender Town, I decide to fuse a Slowpoke I caught on Route 11 with the freed up Charmeleon to create the Psychic Fire Charpoke. Then after defeating a biker and his Zoo Kid, our Charfy evolves into our first Stage 2 Pokemon, Charos. Now it's time for Rival Battle 4 against Squirt in Pokemon Tower. Charslash destroys his lead Maydon with a magnitude 6, but only gets a 4 against Madum, who Seismic tosses. Next turn, I decide to start building Fury Cutter as the fighting psychic type low sweeps us, dropping our speed. We're still fast enough to take the kill next turn, but then this man sends out a Regigigas fusion? I swap to Emelian as the legendary boosts its speed, but thankfully we resist all its moves, Metal Claw, Icy Wind, and Fury Swipes, and are able to deal good damage, so despite a few heals, we take Sneegigas down with relative ease. Last up is the expected Crockerang, who Charplup Bubble Beams for the win. With that, we see Mr. Fuji get taken away by Team Rocket and can make our way over to Celadon. But on Route 8, tragedy strikes as Charpoke is faced with a trainer's Clink Trio, and yeah. I caught an Execute on Route 7 and figured it'd be good to have a Grass type on the squad, and oh man, it's cursed. Good thing I can just buy a Leaf Stone and evolve it, nope, still cursed. After taking down some Rocket Grunts with Erica in the sewers, Emelian evolves into Lamelian, and now it's time to battle Giovanni for the first time. He leads a Munch turn and I send out Execumelian. After only 2 hitting Bullet Seed, we're confused by Signal Beam, so I opt to switch to Charslash, who actually takes decent damage from Body Slam. A magnitude 5 isn't enough to get the KO here, but after a second Body Slam, we get an 8 for the knockout. Next up is Beite, which is kinda scary. I bring Charplup into a Stomp, and after a Crunch on the following turn, we Bubble Beam, almost getting the one-shot. Hoping we outspeed, I stay in, but Giovanni actually heals, so we get a free Brine off for 50%. Thanks to our Bubble Beam speed drop, our next Brine gets the kill, and the Rocket Boss reveals his ace, Cleft Plume. Lamelian has no trouble against the Steel Poison type, resisting its Mirror Shot and winning the battle with some Fire Fangs. Although we now have the Silph Scope, I decide to take on Erica before returning to Pokemon Tower because I'm at the level cap. But this being a Ground-type gym could spell trouble for my team of Fire types. Her lead is Abwhack, which is a super cool Absol Marowak fusion. It even has the OG Ghost behind it. Execumelian starts by setting up Reflect and tanking False Swipe. Then after a Detect, we get Leech Seed, so feeling pretty comfortable. We 3-spot with Bullet Seed, which does just enough damage for our Leech Seed to finish the Dark Ground type after another False Swipe. Next is Kabuwak, but being 4 times weak to Grass means the little Scythe Bearer is a sitting duck for Bullet Seed. Erica's ace is a Blistar, which means it probably won't have too much power. A 2-hit Bullet Seed does good damage, but Stab Thrash brings us into the yellow as the Larvitar fusion is poisoned by its held Toxic Orb. I bring Charslash into a Thrash that does half her health and then get a low roll magnitude, so we're forced to take another. With only 17 HP, I'm forced to go to Charplup as a Hyper Potion is used on the fusion before it dies to poison. Bubble Beam doesn't do too much damage, but we shake off a Dark Pulse and can finish this battle next turn with Brine. Since the Mons in our party all hit level 36, we get some cool evolutions now as Exegumelion becomes Exeguizard, Charslash gets a cool looking custom sprite, and half of Charplup evolves, but the other will come on the next level up, so I'll just show that now. Damn, Charleon is dope. Charizard and Ampharos also have an amazing custom sprite, and Charizard and Lairon is, well, yeah. Charizard even gets in on the evolution party, but I guess the spriters never expected anyone to actually use Furret. After finally getting the Pokeflute, I hop on Cycling Road to get to Fuchsia when a biker with a Perardos challenges me to a battle. Unfortunately for Lizard, the rock type survives Iron Head on 1 HP and fires back with an ancient power that manages to kill our steely boy. Charizard avenges his friend with Sucker Punch, and sadly, it's time to fill another open spot on the team. The Eevee that you get in Celadon was randomized into a Cyndaquil for me, so I decide to make a pure fire fusion as the evolved Quilava merges with Charizard to make Quizzard. I also catch a Torchic and then evolve our double fire starter into Typhusard, whose sprite is really awesome. With the team at 38, it's time to take on Koga, who now has steel types, so this should go pretty well. The ninja leads with Domuku as I send in Exeguizard to reflect as he's hit by Slash. Now we Flame Burst for a little over half as our ability gets suppressed by Gastro Acid. Fine by me as a second Fiery Burst gets the knockout, bringing out Belix. Our first Flame Burst brings the giant bee down to sturdy as its Poison Jab does decent damage to us. After a Hyper Potion, we bring it back to 1, and then interestingly, Koga switches into Scarnub, who survives our fire move on 1 as well. I reset Reflect as the Steel Ground type barely scratches us with Steel Wing, then drop the little Piggy and Belix with back-to-back Flame Bursts. The ninja's ace, however, won't be so easy. Koga sends in the Water Steel type Whaleon, and this thing looks kinda sick. I Leech Seed, which I immediately regret as this thing Water Spouts me for a kill. I go to my own Water type Charleon, whose Flame Burst only does around a quarter to the bulky fusion as Water Spout does over half our health. Thanks to Exeguizard's sacrifice, we regain some much needed HP and take almost nothing from the next spout now that Whaleon is in the red. One last Fiery Burst gets the KO and earns us badge number 5, but it definitely came at a cost. The replacement for our grass type is the fighting type Charbuskin, who quickly evolves into Charakin, really starting to fill out my team of starters. Maybe I'll do a starters only run sometime. Okay, who gave the Rocket Grunt a Kyogre fusion? Before taking on my rival in Silph Co, I go to Route 13 and play my Pokeflute to wake up Snorlax, who gets randomized into a Volcarona. I'm hyped that I'm able to catch the bug type, and now I return to battle Squirt. Of course he leads a dual water fusion Golord, but at least I start things out with Charos, who outspeeds for a discharge one-shot. Now it's right to his ace, who still hasn't hit its final form, and I have Charleon handle this as usual. Next is another Ursaring fusion, Ursa Growth, who Giga Drains us and hangs on through Flame Burst. I try to get cheeky with an Aqua Jet, but it doesn't get the knockout and we're forced to take a second grass type move. Now I switch to Typhusard, but get red as Squirt Ancient Powers on the switch. Good thing I'm not part flying. Speaking of part flying, after lava pluming the Tangle of Vines, a Lady Quasar hits the field. This thing is so goofy. I'm not sure why I wing attack instead of lava pluming, but then I get hit back pretty hard by Double Edge. I swap Charos back into an extreme speed, and despite a rest for the legendary, next turn our discharge is strong enough to take it out. Last up is Baith, who's swiftly dealt with by our electric lizard. We walk in on Giovanni harassing the Silph Co president about only being able to produce 3 Master Balls. As he notices our intrusion, he steps up for a double battle against us and Squirt. His Cranabuzz is the fastest thing on the field, but misses Zen Headbutt to start as we Flame Burst into Exegulos. Then Squirt's Driftum Shadow Balls the electric type into the yellow, and the Egghead on the other side Dragon Pulses, popping our friend's air balloon. Driftum must have Unburdened since it moves first next turn, but tries to Electro Ball Cranabuzz, which doesn't get the kill. It retaliates with a Zen Headbutt before we take it down with Brine, but then Exegulos Wood Hammers, dropping Squirt's first Mon. Banblim and Vigo Vesta hit the field, with the former moving first to Shadow Ball Charleon before we finish Giovanni's other Pokemon with Flame Burst. After a useless counter, the boss reveals his last fusion, Lickiyu, whose name is definitely fitting. Gross. Anyway, I swapped to Typhazard as the Mew fusion uses Barrier, Banblim Shadow Balls us for almost half our health, and Vigavesta uses a useless Bug Bite on the flying Ghost type. Our Fire Starter bites the Hot Air Balloon, flinching it as we're hit by Chip Away, and another useless counter comes out. Needing to switch again, this time I go to Charos, who barely hangs on through a Chip Away followed by Shadow Ball, and Squirt is really throwing here. I go into Charit, who can't be hit by Ghost type moves, and since Vigavesta is going for Focus Punch, Banblim Sucker Punch is wasted. We take moderate damage from Chip Away as Lickiyu takes abysmal damage from a Fighting Gem boosted Focus Punch. Once the Vigoroth Larvesta fusion finally kicks the bucket, Squirt sends in Stannardos, who will hopefully be helpful. We Sucker Punch Banblim, who Sucker Punches our partner, and after being hit again by Chip Away, the Rock type reveals Ancient Power, but doesn't use it on the Flying type. Next turn goes exactly the same way, except Squirt actually finishes the Blimp off with Zen Headbutt, finally making this fight a 1v2. I swap to Charslash, who tanks Chip Away, and after a useless roleplay, the legendary uses me first to Zen Headbutt Stannardos into the dirt. After seeing how little damage Firefang did, I go to Charakin, but Chip Away and now a Sandstorm from Crockering mean we're below half health. I decide it's now or never for Charakin as I click Flame Burst, survive Chip Away, and manage to finish this battle before Squirt's Sandstorm can take me out. With that, Giovanni leaves, claiming the 3 Master Balls are all he'll need for his plan. Before heading for Cinnabar Island, we still have to battle Sabrina, who's a Fairy-type leader, same as Modern Mode. Since Giovanni's ace was 51, I am a little over-leveled here, but it is what it is. Her lead Clefshire is taken out by a Flamethrower plus Electro Ball from Charos after being paralyzed from static as it false swipes. This leads to Sabrina sending out her ace, another Clefable fusion, Clefstar. Discharge does half to the alien, who fires back with a big Ancient Power. Knowing All Out Speed, I stay in for one more and get the kill. As Rose Fable comes in, I go to Typhazard, who eats Poison Sting and one-shots with Flamethrower. Completing the full team of Clefable fusions is Clefakin, which actually has Mega Blaziken's body. I Wing Attack as a bulk up is used, but not doing half, I go for Bite to hopefully kill next turn. We're hit by a weak Quick Attack, and then on the heal, I use one of my own. Next turn, Wing Attack does subpar damage because of the defense boost, and after a Focus Energy, we're crit by Flame Charge. Another Max Potion is used, and then we finally win the battle with some Wing Attacks and a Flamethrower, giving us a relatively easy badge number 6. The Fighting Dojo is now Electric type, and I wanted to quickly show off how insane this Empoleon Rotom fusion is. After picking up a randomized Vileplume, I finally decide it's time to stop using Charit and instead fuse Charizard with Volcarona to get Volkizard. Look at this thing's moveset. It's so busted. On the way to Cinnabar, we fight some interesting fusions like Porirock and Mamdos, but without any main story happening, it's time to fight Blaine and his Dark types. The Scientist leads a Darkrai Aron fusion as I send in Volkizard. A single Bug Buzz gets the kill, and then Typhodile comes in, which is such a cool fusion. I Bug Buzz and take almost half from a crit Flame Charge, but then Blaine heals on the next. Thinking he'll do the same after one more, I Quiver Dance and get lucky as the Fire Croc Scary Faces. Flame Charge number 2 leaves us with 50 HP as we get the knockout with a boosted Bug Buzz, bringing out the ace Haunoris. Not expecting to be outsped, we're bailed out as the dragon uses Swords Dance and we drop it with a single Bug Buzz. Last is Poliwrourke, whose sprite I also love, and this time I go to Charakin, who eats a punishment. After 2 more, a total of 3 kicks of Double Kick knock the Water Dark type out and earn us the Volcano badge. Now some Team Rocket grunts steal this sailor's ship and we chase them down to Mount Ember, catching an Umbreon on the way. Glad to see the Seeger grunt came along for the big mission. We catch up to Giovanni just as he fuses the legendary birds into Zapmokuno, so now it's our job to take it down. I lead Charos, who flamethrowers the Zapdos side of the bird as he's hit with Ancient Power from Articuno, and the other 2 Safeguard and Agility. Next turn, Zapdos outspeeds for another Ancient Power, and our Flamethrower just isn't enough to knock out Articuno as it agilities, but Moltres takes us out with a Flamethrower of its own. Now I go to Typhusard, who's outsped for a Freeze Dry plus Ancient Power before clearing Articuno with Flamethrower. Unfortunately, Moltres follows up with a second Ancient Power, so that's 2 of our party members down. Charslash is next, but I didn't realize each part of the bird retains both their typings as I go for a useless Magnitude and take 2 Ancient Powers for nothing. Before going down, I get some more damage on Zapdos with Flamethrower, but things are looking a little bleak here. I go to our starter who's been through it all with us, and as Zapdos charges, we take it down with Brine. Moltres' Air Slash does 70 damage, but after a big Surf, it just safeguards, and we finally thwart Giovanni's plan with one last Surf, putting an end to the carnage this bird was causing. With that, Team Rocket is disbanded, and we need to rebuild our team. I go with Charchoke, using a Machop I got back in Rock Tunnel and evolved into Machoke, Umbuzard, which just might be my favorite fusion on the team, and Violazard, which uses Mega Charizard Wise Sprite and is also pretty awesome. Also, while fighting some gym trainers, Charchoke evolves into Charchamp. Now it's time for our final showdown with the ex-Rocket Boss and his water types. He starts things off with a Dutoise and I send in Violazard. A Mega Drain plus 2 Flamethrowers take the Water Ice fusion down as it misses Aqua Tail and uses its second turn trying to set up Skull Bash. Next is Manwhack, which is actually really cute. The Water Ground type survives Mega Drain and misses a Hydro Pump. I slash on the heal, and then Mega Drain plus Recoil from Double Edge give us KO number 2. This must make Giovanni angry since now we see his ace, and wow, Swamdos is incredible. It hurricanes us with a Flying Gem to boot, so that's the end of Violazard. Your time on the team was short-lived, but greatly appreciated. I go to one of our other new members, Umbuzard, and Will-O-Wisp the Leviathan as it rain dances. With its attack halved, I now start firing off Snarls to drop its special. Hurricane and Hyper Beam barely break through my defenses as we take the Sea Serpent down with a mixture of Snarls and burn damage. Next is another Gyarados fusion, Hondos, who's weak to Snarl, but Giovanni spams potions. On the turn, I decide to heal up with Moonlight, the Ghost-type Destiny Bond, so I Will-O-Wisp instead of going for the kill. Now that it rain dances, I'm free to Snarl for the knockout, leaving the leader with only a Pukasaur. I Snarl into a red card, bringing Volkizard into the 4 times resisted Petal Blizzard. Our Bug is free to Buzz for the KO, giving us the win and badge number 8. I decide it may be good to have a ground resist, so I fuse this Charizard with a Fearow I caught all the way back on Route 25 as a Spearow. Before Victory Road, we have another face-off with our rival, who leads with an Articuno Gligar fusion. The bird only agilities twice, so we take it down with a pair of Flamethrowers before he sends in this absolutely cursed Probaflame. I go to Charleon as we're hit by Lock-On and Eaton Acrobatics as we surf. I Aqua Jet to outspeed for the KO as another pretty cursed fusion Electackle hits the field. We one-shot it, Ponyton, Sandode, and the fully evolved Krookring with Surfs, clearing our way to the gates. Inside Victory Road, my last encounter actually ends up being a Wartortle, which will be joining the team. I currently have 2 fighting types, so I come up with the strategy to unfuse Charakin since I think Charchamp is better. Then I fuse Wartortle with the Freezard and evolve it into Blastazard. Now, instead of having 2 water types, I think it would be useful to have a steel type, so I reverse our starter into Empoizard. And with that, we have our final team for the Elite Four. I get to level 59 since that's where Lance's ace is, and let's see how things go, starting with Lorelei and her normal types. She starts off strong with an Arceus Ditto fusion as I send in Umbuzard. An immediate Will-O-Wisp doesn't mean much as we're hyper-voiced for a quarter of our health. Lorelei uses an early heal as I Snarl, and then E-Speed hits and I burn the Pokemon God again. Now it's a swap to Charchamp as our opponent refreshes to get rid of the burn. Earth Power does decent damage and drops our Spadef as we strike back with Cross Chop for the kill. Fusion number 2 is Slacking and Mankey, which is pretty scary. And of course it uses Final Gambit, already taking down our fighting type along with itself. I bring Umbuzard back, but the normal master reveals another half-fighting fusion, Porichan. It's an immediate swap to Charo for me as the boxer loads up a Focus Punch. We take big damage, and I misjudge the power of our Drill Peck, so that's 2 Mons down to the first Elite Four members we're hit with Tri-Attack. I go to Volcaizard, and as a full restore is used, I Fiery Dance, getting the boost. Next turn, we outspeed for a Flamethrower KO, and the Water-type Pharasian hits the field. I go to Blastazard, who's Screeched, and then I realize I don't have any moves that can really hurt this thing. We're slashed for big damage as I do some Flamethrower chip, and then go to my Steel-type for the next swipe of the claw. After some not very effective moves connect on both ends, I decide to go back to our Bug Boy, whose Flame Body procs on the switch. After a half-power assurance, we drop the Gator Cat with Bug Buzz, leading to another Arceus fusion, Arflora. Luckily, this one is part grass, so 2 Flamethrowers give us the win as we tank a Petal Blizzard. Already losing 2 Mons doesn't bode well for the rest of this Elite Four, but we must press on. Bruno is now an Ice-type trainer, which is a huge relief for my team of Fire types. He leads a beautiful double Glaceon fusion who I Quiver Dance on as it hails. Then +1 Flamethrowers take it out, Zorus, who was disguised as Artawile, and his Beerus. Mamking, however, survives the move but just soaks our Bug Lizard, turning it into a Water type. A Fiery Dance next turn drops the Water type and gives us another boost, so now, faced with the real Artawile, we have no trouble Flamethrowering one last time for the win. Now things are back on track, but let's see if we can keep it rolling against Agatha. The Fighting-type Master starts things off with Drumstick? Oh boy, an Air Slash flinch is really not good for us. I switch to Blastazard, who dodges Mega Kick but takes big damage from close combat before getting the first KO with Surf. Next up is King Cross, but I don't really see a safe switch, so I Flamethrower for some chip and go down to another close combat. Volcaizard is my only team member not weak to fighting, so I bring him back and pray Bug Buzz is strong enough to kill, which it isn't. At least we resist fighting-type moves as Reversal leaves us with 68 HP. Knowing that a full restore is coming, I take the opportunity to Quiver Dance, but Bug Buzz still can't drop the Heracross Kingler as CC leaves us with 9 health. I played it safe here and went for Flamethrower, which actually almost killed after another heal, then one more keeps us in this fight. Her next Pokemon, Leadnape, is luckily weak to fire, so we get another knockout via Flamethrower, but as Dustcross hits the field, I know I need to switch. I go to Umbuzard as the Ghost Fighting type uses the not very effective Payback, meaning I have a chance. Flamethrower doesn't do much to the Dusknoir fusion as it mean looks us, but then I get a huge Will-O-Wisp connection to cut this thing's attack. Payback does almost nothing as I Snarl, and then Reversal doesn't hurt too bad thanks to the burn. Now I Moonlight as we're hit with another Payback and Flamethrower for the KO. Last is a Victory Champ who's also weak to fire. It hangs on through Flamethrower and almost takes us out with a single Cross Chop, but luckily it didn't crit. Without any more heals, we can safely Flamethrower one last time to barely make it out of this battle with a team of 3. Another lucky typing pull as Lance has Ghost types. He leads Ancient Gear Golem, Klinklerk, who Volcaizard Quiver Dances on as it metal sounds. A single Flamethrower takes the Yu-Gi-Oh monster down, and then Shandacross hits the field. Flamethrower isn't quite strong enough to drop the fiery Heracross, but Megahorn is 4 times resisted, so I feel pretty good here. I get Quiver Dance number 2 up on the heel, and then Flamethrower easily gets the knockout. Another Chandelure fusion, Shandagon, is next, and this one is incredibly cool. Bug Buzz does just over half to the dragon, whose Body Slam does decent damage. With Black Sludge Chip, I can Flamethrower for another KO, bringing in Cleftomb. My +2 Flamethrower just doesn't get the kill as we're left with 65 HP from Dark Pulse. With another heal coming out, we Flamethrower into Fiery Dance to bring Lance down to his last Mon, Duskgross. I finally decide to make the swap to my Dark type as a resisted Shadow Ball is fired off from the Ghost Psychic type. Thanks to a Sticky Barb, all it takes to pick up the win here is 1 Snarl and then let the item do the rest. Well, this is it. Can our squad of 3 pull off the impossible and become champions? Let's find out. Squirt starts things off with a Raichu Kangaskhan fusion, and I love the Plusle and Minun in its pouch. I go for a Quiver Dance straight away as the mother endures. With the free boost, I go for a second, and this time Outrage hits for about half my health, but Flame Body activates. A +2 Flamethrower starts things off strong as our rival goes right to his ace Krook Ring. I really thought a +2 flamethrower would clear this thing, but sadly it hangs on and thrashes Volcaizard, killing the team member who did so much for us in this Elite Four. With his dying breath, he burns the Croc, taking it with him and opening the path to victory. I take the safe play and go to Umbuzard now as Victory Bat comes in for the champ. Leaf Blade barely hurts as we flamethrower, and after a heal we crit for a KO. Now comes a truly terrifying Mon, Cleftos. I immediately Will-O-Wisp this thing as it sets up Rain Dance. Then I switch to Empoizard as Squirt uses a full restore to cure the burn. We trade Steel Wings with Hurricanes and our rival uses 2 more full restores before we get confused and I go back to our Staller. We burn the Gyarados fusion after it sets up Rain and Hurricanes us, but this time I don't think it'll be healed. Now I slow play things, snarling and moonlighting while Cleftos slowly chips down to its unavoidable death. At full health, Venonine is next, but I eat Petal Blizzard and yet again start snarling. Even a Solar Beam from the powerhouse barely scratches us, and once the rain stops, we can pick up the knockout with Flamethrower. Squirt's last mon is a Coffatrice, who as a Steel type is weak to fire. It just takes 2 fiery breaths to drop the Ghostly Spider, miraculously finishing this Cinderella run and crowning us as champion of the Kanto region. I really loved getting to use Charizard fusions and still can't believe the run we went on at the end. Without Volcaizard, I really don't think we would have been able to win this challenge. There are still so many amazing fusions I haven't seen, and the Spriters are constantly working on more, so definitely check this game out for yourselves. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.